it's 10:17. We finally got through the rush hour traffic and dumped that empty container. We then picked up a full 45-foot container full of air conditioning product. We took that down to the big air conditioning distribution warehouse in the airport industrial area. The dispatch sent the bobtail back to our terminal, which turned out to be a little difficult because of the traffic. But we got back there and it's lunchtime. We heated up the lunch, hooked up to this empty 40-foot container. We're taking that into the shipping terminal, and then we're going to pick up a full, it's like a 40-foot flat rack full of structural steel, and take that out to the Pelimano military reservation out in the middle of the island. This is a good run. Out to the center of the island. And I think I've been there before, I'm not sure. They're renovating some of the older buildings on the military reservation. It's basically a military housing reservation. It's kind of like a small military city set up out in the middle of the island. And my regen light just came on. Just now. So, seeing how it's lunchtime, let me show you. That's the regen light. It just now came on. So that takes 45 minutes. So we'll dump this empty, hook up to the full, call dispatch and let them know we're regenning, and we'll spend 45 minutes regenning while we have lunch. Perfect timing. So that's the plan. Gives me time to catch up on the paperwork. We're not that far behind because of all the traffic. We're kind of caught up on the paperwork. But it gives me time to look up the address where where on that military reservation that they are. I'm thinking it's probably the same place I was before. It's the same type of route. We'll find out then. In the meantime, making our way to the shipping terminal center. 10:40. We got the empty stripped off, and then we came over. We hooked up to this full 40-foot flat rack with that structural steel. It's the same stuff as last time. This stuff has to be hand installed inside these buildings, old World War II buildings. So we got a bunch of guys at each one of these pieces of steel and carry them inside the buildings. Restored, I guess. So let's get this thing rejetting. We got to turn off the fast idle. And they always say to make sure that the brakes are secured, so release the brakes, secure the brakes, punch in and out, in gear, out of gear. And now all you gotta do is hold this regen button here for 5 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Like 6 seconds. So it's 10:42. It usually starts out kind of rough in the first 10 minutes or so, and then it kind of smooths out, and then it kind of on and off towards the end. But it's always taking like 45 minutes. Last time we regen was 1,429 miles. Outside. This regen will get the temperature outside the truck up over 100 for sure. So we'll just let our dispatcher know what's going on, and then in 45 minutes we can continue to work. Regen, and then we brought the 40-foot flat rack up here to the Wahiwa Plateau, to the Helibanu military reservation. Went ahead and spotted the flat rack next to the job site in the parking lot. Now we're making our way through the pineapple fields here. The big dome pineapple warehouse is here on the right, and across the street is what they call the Dole Hut, or so it's where all the tour buses stop. There's a gift shop, there's a maze, there's a little narrow gauge railroad that takes you through the gardens. Best of all, you can get yourself a pineapple boat. It's where they hollow out a pineapple and fill it full of ice cream and bananas. It's like a banana split with pineapples in a pineapple boat. It's hard to eat it by yourself, but it's fun when you have a bunch of your friends to help you. Because it's huge. Usually when my wife and I go around the island, which is like once a year, we'll do like a Circle Island tour. We'll hit the Dole Hut, hit the shrimp farms, some of the sites that normally tourists go to, hang out at one of the beaches on the North Shore. We only do that like once a year, but it's a lot of fun, usually during the summer months when it's warmer. Right at the beginning of fall, that's a good time to go. But we're going to make our way out to the Campbell Industrial area to a pre-stressed fabrication yard where they make pre-stressed concrete forms or structures, or they make all kinds of stuff. Prefab concrete buildings. It's a lay-down yard, and we deliver a lot of their hardware. So That's where we're headed. Across the island. What a beautiful day. Hardly any wind. And the haze is kind of cleared off. So it's looking really nice. We're looking straight ahead now at the Schofield Army Base. That's that whole area out in front of us. This area off to the right is what they call the range. That's where they do live fire practice. Yeah, making our way to the Campbell Industrial area. Well, we got halfway to the Campbell Industrial area, and dispatch called and turned me around and said, head out to the farm where you dropped off the surfboard again. And there, the air right here is reeking of ganja. Burning it. I don't know what's going on. But there's a fragrance in the air. It smells like a skunk. Skunky. Anyway, so this container goes back to the international shipping terminal. It's now 1:50. Glad we were able to come here on a nice dry day. This would be a lot different if it had been raining. We got like a 32-mile drive back into town. Definitely what I would call a good run. Making our way back to town. That means we're out of def, even though all four bars are full. So this is probably causing that, and that is causing that. And when that one there comes on, the truck will normally do maximum 67 miles, but when that light comes on, the most you can do is 57 miles. So it deregulates the engine or something. But I'm hoping when it sits overnight, maybe a lot of that this computer stuff will readjust itself. If not, we take it to the mechanic in the morning and they can reset it. That's what happens when you have these new trucks with these big computers and 100 sensors all over everything, and then you take it out on the road and you shake it for 300,000 miles. I don't know who came up with that idea, but eventually the sensors get tired and wear out, and it seems to happen every time we regen the truck. And so I don't know if the regenning is heating things up and then the sensors get all wonky. That could be it. But anyway, we had kind of so-so day. We came in at 5:30. We'll be out of here a little after 3:15. I didn't finish the last part here again. The last bobtail. Back to the yard. Too much paperwork. There we go. Oops. There we go. So we're gonna head on home and make some dinner. I got pizza all set up, ready to go. So that'll be easy. But I do want to make a big tossed salad. The salad I used it, ate it all up yesterday. So pizza and salad. That's what's for dinner. I had a comment at this is going to lead to somebody commented and says you should get a hands-free headset. And I kind of giggled when I watched that, because I do talk on the phone probably 10-20 times a day, sometimes twice an hour. The average phone call lasts 20 seconds average. So I'm not one who talks on the phone. If you call me, tell me what you got to do, we're not going to chit chat. And so even when my wife calls, she talks and talks and talks and talks, and finally I tell her, I got to go. But yeah, it brought me back to my roots. And for those of you, I noticed there's like 28 people that just signed on in the last month or so. And I've always enjoyed telling my story for the new people, just so they can understand what's going on, I think it's kind of important. If you're going to listen to somebody for 20 minutes a day, you might want to know who they are, where they came from. But I was born in Washington State. And when I was 5, my mom married my stepdad and moved the family to the U.S. Virgin Islands down by Puerto Rico. It's a U.S. territory. Compared to most places in the United States, it's got one of the highest cost of livings to be found in the United States, and probably one of the poorest lifestyles. I don't know what lifestyle. People don't make a lot there. So they're poor. I grew up poor. But I didn't know that. Nobody knows they're poor when they're poor. But it's very hard to get ahead in the Caribbean. That's why everybody works 2 jobs trying to get ahead, and you got to be smart about it. So yeah, as far as economics go, it's one of the lowest economic places in the United States. All the U.S. territories are like that. None of them are really well off, let's say. But that's where I grew up, and I have a lot of that West Indian nature about me. So when I tell people, when you cut me, I bleed West Indian, even though there's 2 types of Hawaiians: those that were born and raised in Hawaii, and those that plan to live the rest of their life in Hawaii, and I'm kind of the latter. So even though I'm not truly Hawaiian, my mind thinks West Indian, but I'm going to live here the rest of my life. Well, yeah, when I graduated from high school, I was a 100-ton ocean operator. It became known as a master's license. And I ran ferry boats between the islands. That was my first job out of high school. And on the side, I worked at a dive shop, and I was a dive master, and I took people out diving on the weekends. And then I had a good friend of mine that was in construction, so we built houses on the side. And then whenever somebody can get a hold of me, I would take charters out for day sales and weekend sales. And then whenever a hurricane would come through the islands, I would babysit boats during hurricanes. So that's where I was when I graduated from high school. I was kind of a jack of all trades, master of none, and proud of it. I didn't really want to do anything for any one thing too much. I liked a lot of variety. And so I was busy, and I was doing all right. Hurricane came along, destroyed the hotel that I worked for. And that hotel, I worked there as a waiter. I worked the front desk. I drove their shuttle buses when they needed it. I ran the ferry shuttle that between the islands. That was probably my biggest job. Ran cargo for them. Did the scuba charters with them. I sat on their boats. So I was invested in the Sugarbird Hotel and all these different jobs. And every time I did a different job, they'd pay me differently. So a hurricane came in and closed the hotel, destroyed it. A week later, another hurricane came along and wiped out the house where I lived. The apartment building I lived in was an old hotel that had been turned into apartments, and it ripped the entire roof off this one wing of the hotel, and so lost the roof. And so at that point, I was 21, and I moved to New York, where my mom was living, Bayshore, New York. And I lived in New York for 7 years, and I enjoyed New York because it was everything the Caribbean wasn't, but I hated New York because of the weather. I don't know how people live in cold weather. I grew up, and I've always lived in warm weather. I love to sweat. I hate to shiver. And so every time the winter came around, I would just shake my head going, man, why do people live here? Why did they? Because I hadn't grown up with it. And so I got used to it. I mean, I've always worked outside. I'd work outside in 10-degree weather, which, you know, it hurts to breathe. But yeah, it wasn't what I was looking for. And I had a friend that I went to high school with that was in Hawaii, and he invited me out, and I came out to Hawaii. The first time was in 1983. Stayed for a few months, went back to New York, came out again in 1985, I think it was. It was right at the very beginning of 85. Stayed a little bit longer this time. I think I stayed a little over 3 months, went back to New York. And then I came out in 86, just for a short time, and made the decision to move to Hawaii, and I came back in 87. So I moved to Hawaii in 1987, $700 in my pocket and a girlfriend. We all came to Hawaii, and we lived in a one-bedroom with the friend of mine that had invited me to Hawaii in the first place several years before. So we lived in the one-bedroom, he and his girlfriend in the one-bedroom, and me and my girlfriend in the living room on the folded couch. That's how I came to Hawaii, with $700. And I worked as a cashier in a 1-hour photo at Sears in the Ala Moana Shopping Center. That was my very first real job in Hawaii. And that job was given to me because the friend that invited me out, he was the manager of the 1-hour photo. So I've always had a relationship with the 1-hour photos when that was something, you know. First year I was here, somebody came in with a bunch of photographs of tour buses and accidents. She was the safety officer. She told me she could get me driving tour buses within a week. I took her up on that, and 1 week later I was a tour bus driver, and I drove tour buses here in Hawaii for 10 years with Trans-Hawaiian Services. And really enjoyed that because it taught me the culture here in Hawaii. It taught me all about the islands. It was a good introduction to Hawaii, all about the people, all about the geography, you know, lots and lots and lots. And they sent me to school to learn even more. And so I enjoyed that very much. It didn't pay well, tourism is affected by everything. First Gulf War came along, and I went from working 5 days a week down to 2 days a week. And so I walked across the street from where the tour bus company was over on Pu'uhale, and there was a garbage company looking for roll-off drivers, Browning Ferris Industries, BFI. And so I started driving roll-off trucks for them, and I was working at night with the tour buses. So for 2 years I did that. I worked day with the garbage trucks, and I worked night with the tour buses hauling passengers from the airport back to their hotels. And so that lasted 7 years. And by this time my body was hurting all over because garbage is hard on the body. And I had moved from roll-off to front load, so now I was pushing big cans around the neighborhoods and pulling them out of cubicles and dumping them and pushing them back, and smashing my hand and scraping my knees and spraining my fingers and getting stuff in my eye. And you know, it never ends with garbage. I was in the hospital at least 3 times a year, at least, just to get stuff fixed. And never overnight, just to, you know, get cuts and bruises and bangs fixed up. And so I was kind of tired of it. And a friend of mine came to me. He was had been a tour bus driver, but he started working with this company as a safety officer. He told me you can get me my tractor trailer license, so I came to DHX in 2002, kind of right after the Gulf, right after 9/11, about 6 months after 9/11, and somewhere around there. And started driving all these trucks. I drove a little truck like that in the beginning, doing air freight, and then I drove a bigger box truck, which I didn't like too much. And then I drove these flatbeds for about two and a half years. And at that point I started cleaning up the yard at the end of the day in the yard hustler and learning how to, you know, maneuver containers around. And then I went down, so I'm kind of a self-taught person. Went down and got my license. It took me 3 tries. I aced the skills and the road test, but it was the pre-trip. I had to take that 3 times before I passed it. And so that's how I became a tractor trailer driver. That was 20 years ago. So I've been driving tractor trailers for 20 years, garbage trucks for 7 years, tour buses for 10 years. I'm almost 64, 63 still. I wanted to retire at 55. That's where YouTube came in. When I was 55, I was going to start a YouTube channel because I don't like technology. And this is getting back to the person saying, oh, you should get a headset. And they don't realize how much I hate technology. But I realized I was really falling behind in technology. I was like that old guy that doesn't know anything about computers or cell phone. I didn't even have a cell phone. You know. At 55, I didn't want one, but I figured, you know, I can do it, I just don't want to. So got a cell phone, started a YouTube channel. And the only reason I started a YouTube channel is because I was thinking of going to North Dakota and driving water trucks in the oil fields, because they could make, you know, with the bonuses, close to $100,000 a year. At that time I was making, you know, 50, 60 here in Hawaii driving tractor trailers. I figured, man, I go there and make twice the amount of money. Of course I'm not thinking it through, because my wife is the one that kind of straightened me out. And you're working 70-hour weeks, so you're working 10-hour days, 7 days a week. And if you haven't done that, it's hard. It wears you down pretty fast. And finally, I was watching YouTube channels about that, and I realized, nah, it's not for me. And that's where it kind of clicked. I said, well, what if somebody's in North Dakota and wants to come to Hawaii and doesn't know what driving in Hawaii is like? They need somebody to make a YouTube channel to show people what driving in Hawaii is like and what you got to put up with. And so that's how it all got started. I thought I'd do a favor. I didn't make the channel to make money. I just made it because I wanted to challenge myself to learn technology. It's worked out well. I don't know how much longer I'll continue it, but you know, a year and a half from now, I should not be driving trucks. Hopefully, I can retire and I'll drive trucks very part-time, 2 days a week at the most. And that's just because I can feel it wearing on the body, you know, and I don't want to hurt myself or hurt anybody else because I'm not as sharp as I used to be. But yeah, that's my story. Hope it makes a little bit of sense. But we're going to head on home and make that pizza. That's it for today. Thanks for watching. Aloha.